Yeah, hold it tight. You're not done here. Hold it tight. The wall is 4 inches forward on the front.
Not the black one. Underneath that jack.
Hardy's boat was really something. He never had plans for it, never had a set of blueprints. He did everything out of his head. We all had the same sense of what a boat should look like. I can't tell you how many thousands of hours we must have spent on this boat, and it was really quite a project. And a lot of visitors, a lot of people would come by, they'd hear about it, and they'd come up to watch and look for a while and get in the way generally. But, you know, pretty much everybody would come by, and people would bring things that they would think would be of use to you, you know, tools that you might not have, or, I don't know, pieces of wood or something that they figure would fit into the scheme of things. You must be Eric. Brian Kelly.
Nice
Who are you?
Buddy Jennings.
Hi, buddy. Brian Kelly. Nice to meet you, Brian. Good Irish name.
Spencer.
Spencer Day.
Brian. Hi, Brian.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
What's your Nolan. Hi, Nolan.
My son Nolan.
And Nicole?
Nicole Forsyth.
Nice to meet you, Nicole.
Yeah, it's my
John
Potter. Nice to meet you.
Mr. Potter, my pleasure. Oh, this is beautiful, huh?
Yeah. Nice
Yeah, can we get like an original boat? Look at this thing. Wow. This is awesome.
Yeah. That's built back in the 60s by my dad. So he's 52 years old this year.
Very nice. So we're gonna go for a little ride?
Yeah, I'll go for a spin down the river and back or something.
Nice.
You know, so.
Look at this. Look at the wheel on this thing.
Yeah, it is made. He made the wheels. Everything that you see is made by him. So yeah. So if you're ready, if you want to get going, we can take a ride.
Let's take a ride. Oh, this is gorgeous, huh? Thinking about the history of the Milton waterfront, I think back to pre-revolutionary days. Just down here to my right, over at Gulliver's Creek, they had a ferry in like the early 1600s. I think it was like 1635 or 38 or something. They used to take the ferry over to Quincy Bay, and then people would board another boat down to Plymouth. A little further in the 1600s, we had shallops were built over here, and they could hold like 40 tons of cargo, and they would go into Boston, up the Neponset River, out into Boston. The thing that most of you are going to remember or are aware of in the history of Milton is the old granite railroad, the first railroad in the United States. They took blocks of granite, giant, heavy blocks of granite from the Quincy quarries, that put them on these rail cars, which were pulled by horses. They'd come down what is today Granite Ave. Matter of fact, that's how it became called Granite Ave. They'd come down to Gulliver's Creek here, and they would load the granite onto schooners, which would bring them into Charlestown, and that's what they used to build the Bunker Hill Monument. So we have a lot of history on the Milton waterfront, but we have a little bit of history that some of you might not be aware of. And so we're going to go upriver to the Milton Landing and the Milton Yacht Club, and we're going to see a procedure that replicates something that the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, did years ago. Stay tuned. go.
kind of a complex method, but it's ancient. It's it's the way boats have been moved for centuries, millennia, really. with some kind of winch. Our winch is I don't want to say it's modern because it's been here for probably 50 years at this point, but it's an electric winch. It has the capacity to pull boats up on the marine railway. It's got a stick shift, and it's got a clutch, and and a brake, obviously. And whether you're letting the car down slowly and in a controlled fashion, or whether you're cranking it back up again, you just operate that winch in a particular way, and it's not hard to do, but you've got to be really careful.
We use the marine rail car, which goes into the water with a boat cradle already chained onto the rail car. We take small boats out before high tide, take the biggest boats out at high tide, and take smaller boats as the tide gradually ebbs away. So we can take, depending on the size of boats, 4 to 6 boats out in a day around high tide.
You know, the car that we haul on is only 20 feet long, so the boat's 40, so you got a lot sticking out on the end.
Because when you think about it, even though it's got big railroad wheels on it, even they have a limit for how much they can carry.
You can see underneath my boat, the Yankuti, there's a steel box cradle that it stands on, and that's because of the way that we launch and haul the boats down here, which is a traditional marine railway that's, 100 feet over that way towards the flagpole. And so what happens is when this boat is ready to go in the water, we'll jack it up and put it on a set of steerable dollies. That takes 4 guys, 1 on each corner, and pull it with a truck, which takes another guy to drive the truck. And then there's usually one other gentleman who's sort of in charge of the whole operation, make sure everything's safe and going the right way. So we haul it with a chain across the pavement and down onto the rail car, block it up. Once you get on the rail car, take the wheels off, chain it down, and then we're hooked to a cable with a winch across the street, and the whole thing just drops in the water. And it's a lot, it sounds very complicated, but it's a lot of fun actually, and we have a good time with it.
Eric Forsyth, did I say it right?
Yes.
Eric Forsyth, on the Valhalla. And I want you to know this show is revolving around your boat. You know that, don't you?
Yes, I found that out today. Sure.
Okay, so we're going to show the folks at home the secret to taking, how many ton vessel is this?
It's 13 tons.
The secret to taking a 13-ton vessel out of the water in Milton Landing.
Yeah, it's quite a daunting task. The crew that we have has to know what they're doing.
How many people do you have to recruit to make this happen?
I'd say we have anywhere from 8 to 10 people that are knowledgeable of the old system of using rollers and cables and the winch system. So yeah, minimum about 10 people. So.
How long have they been using the winch system over here?
As long as I'm 54, been down there my whole life, and as long as I've been down here.
Well, your dad was here, right?
Yes, yeah. My dad was here, and my grandfather was here, dating back to the early 30s. It's our family's been members of the club. So it's been going on a long time.
Oh
yeah. So.
Almost 100 years, maybe.
Yeah, it was in 1904. I think it was the origination for the yacht club. So yeah.
Do you think they put the winch system in with the origination of the yacht club?
I imagine they had.
Because they had to get the boats in and out of the water,
yes.
right?
Oh yeah. This rail system's been here that amount of time, so it's been storing boats here.
Years old.
Oh yeah. So yeah.
I've gone to boat yards and I've seen they use these what are those machines that they do? They just pick the boat out and roll it away.
Well, I've seen they use a I forget it's the travel lifts. Yes, there's a double sling travel lifts where they lower the straps down in the water. You drive the boat onto it and pick it up. I've used that. I've seen them use large cranes, taking them out of the water, and they use hydraulic trailers now, where they back down a rampway, into the water. You drive the boat on. They use hydraulic pads to lift the boat up and then to pull it out of the water that way. So it's a number of tools, but this is the oldest way of doing it.
This is the old school, right?
This is the oldest and probably one of the few marine railways that are left in New England, the country.
A marine railway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a marine dry dock in a sense, right?
Yeah, similar to it, but whereas we what the marine railway does, it uses the we have the train tracks that run down the rampway, and we have a
How far in the
flatbed
water
car.
do the tracks go, under the water?
They extend past the wall here, probably about 12 or 15 feet, and at a high tide, which we'll have next weekend, is it's an 11-foot tide, so you have about 6 or 7 feet of water there. So enough so I can drive this Valhalla over and drive it onto its cradle, and we'll haul it from there.
So you put a cradle onto the rail car.
Yep, and we chain it down so it doesn't float off.
Right.
And we attach a cable from the old winch system that we have, and we launch that. That whole apparatus goes down the rail into the water, and again the cradle itself will be probably around 6 or 7 feet underwater, and I'll drive the boat over, and I'll work with the winch operator to creep the boat forward as he's pulling the car up out of the water, and the two will make contact, keep it straight, and that will allow us to haul it up the rail and out of the water. So quite an operation.
And then there's a whole thing with
All this-
rollers and everything.
Yep, is
Like the Egyptians
used to move the pyramids. Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Build pyramids. So we're looking forward to seeing that shot. We're going to show the folks at home that whole operation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just talk about the vessel that's going to be moved out. We're talking about the Valhalla.
Yep.
Tell me the history.
History was Valhalla was built by my actually I always say my father, but I should include my mother in that. So my mother and father built the boat. He started it, 1959. He was probably, I'd guesstimate, probably around 28 years old. He wanted to build a boat, just as his father has built 2 boats. And so he started.
Family of shipbuilders.
Family of shipbuilders, yes. So this is unique in the fact that all the oak framing and ribbing on Valhalla was cleared out of a lot in Hanson. They took the trees down, and he had them milled up into the lumber that he used to make the framework, the keel, engine bed, all that stuff, and also all the planking that was used were old staging planks they had from their Prudential Center in Boston, which he worked as a union wire lather, and again he had them all milled up, and he used those planks for the hull.
Did he get those in the dead of the night?
No, he was he cleared it with his the superintendent of the building. They said take them because they gotta throw them out. So he put them to good use.
Wow, that's a guy's story.
Yeah, and
You got some mahogany I saw downstairs in the cabin.
yeah, do the mahogany, and the cabin itself was all done with cedar closet lining. It was to be all varnished and very unique, very sleek looking. It's been changed over the years, which as a lot of the boat has, from replacing the stern to replacing a section of the keel to just maintenance, a lot of maintenance. You know,
It's a wooden boat. I heard they don't need any maintenance.
well, they need a whole lot. It's like the only way I can characterize it is like picture scraping and painting your house every single year. That's the amount of work that goes into this boat every
people
spring.
love that. That's why they have that vinyl stuff now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
you know?
my goodness.
But
So you really have to be committed to own a wooden boat.
yes, yeah, very. And with me, especially this one, because it means a lot to myself and a number of other members and people down here that come down and visit. It's been a staple of the Yacht Club for 52 years this year. This is the 52nd year of
But this is a
Valhalla.
very wealthy yacht club, don't you? You just have people come in and do all that stuff for you. That's what everyone does down
Well,
here, right? This is one of those luxury centers.
Negative. This is one of the few actually working man's yacht clubs still in existence. Really, we do all of our maintenance to the landing here, to the yacht club, and to all of our own boats. We get them maintained and get them ready for the water. All these docks that you see along here are maintained by the yacht club, funded materials were purchased by the yacht club to repair them over the years. As you know, they're all made of wood, and they all need TLC every single year. So.
That wood, huh?
Yeah, it's all wood.
Oh,
you know,
man.
you gotta love the wood.
So, so your father was a member here,
Yep.
and your grandfather was a member.
Grandfather
here
was a member here also. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
tradition, huh?
Oh yeah. Yep. Just a, 4 generations now.
Is this one of the few wooden boats left down here?
Yeah. This is one of 2. We have this one here, and we have Peter Brown's boat that's over to our right. Yep. I think my being the 52nd year, I think my father would be quite happy that it's still going.
Still in operation.
But it's a labor of love, you know.
So you were here when they had the old cold storage here, right?
Yeah, yeah. The old Henry's freezer plant used to be there. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Things have changed.
Things have changed quite a bit. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
People seem to be gravitating more to the water is more of an attraction than it used to be. It used to be a dumping ground for a lot of communities at one time.
Oh, it was. Yeah. This back in the 70s, this the Neponset River was very dirty, very polluted. From a lot of the companies and stuff upstream were dumping a lot.
There was a paper mill upstream.
Yep,
Right? Oh.
yep. So we had a lot of. It was very unswimmable, which
Right.
you know nowadays it's a hell of a lot cleaner than it was, and yeah, it's still going. It's a tidal basin where.
What does that mean?
Means it has high tide, low tide. Unlike the Charles River, that has the lock set up where you
Where it stabilizes it.
Yeah, we always have the nice high tides and the beautiful scenery. Down here, you get the very high tides where it's very beautiful, and the low tides it's very limited access as far as
It's almost like
the waterway.
Just a narrow pathway.
Yep, exactly. So for this boat here, we usually don't plan on heading out until at least 2 hours after low or 2 hours before low. That's it's too dangerous because of stuff that's in the river.
So what's the worst thing that ever happened to you on this Valhalla?
Worst thing?
Oh, the most interesting.
I know it's September of '72. Out fishing, and
You went fishing.
we went fishing with a number of people on the boat,
Yeah.
and we were out by Boston Light. Coming in, started raining. My brother was driving and deviated off course a little bit. Ended up slamming into a pile of rocks out there
Wow.
at 8 to 10 knots, and the boat was aground. To the point where Coast Guard ordered everybody off of it. My father and my brother wouldn't get off. They waited. And long story, a little bit longer. Member of the club here, Ray Carlson, he's since passed. He came out and transferred us to the boat, called ahead to the yacht club through the Boston Marine operator, that's how you used to communicate back then before you had
didn't use a cell phone?
no cell phones. No. It was either use the VHF radio. He had called back to the club, told him what happened, and by the time we got back in, there were 6 boats on the dock. They were grabbing every scrap piece of wood up in the yard here, loaded on the boats, and the membership were able to go out there, walking around the boat up to the waist and water, sliding in boards with blocks just to block it up. They made a makeshift cradle on the rocks. The boat just sat back as the tide went out, and they waited for the tide to come in and floated it off. And they were able to drive it back in. So,
Well, they rescued the Valhalla.
so it was that if that wasn't done, this boat wouldn't be here now. It would have been we would have lost it. But yeah. So it's kudos
You
to
were
the.
on it that day.
I was on it that day, and we
Let me
stopped
ask you a
abruptly.
question. I know things are a little different now, but is it possible that the man in charge of the steering was maybe enjoying a little bit of the party atmosphere?
Actually, no, that day, no, because
okay.
I think my brother was probably around 13 at the time.
I see. Just
But yeah, just it was one of those things.
learned.
Currents changed, and yeah,
it just drifted a little off
right, a
course.
little off course. Yeah,
Okay.
but I still remember to this day, how abruptly we stopped. A number of things end up breaking on board because of the shore.
No one got hurt.
Strap, but nobody got hurt. No, yeah,
No.
and they wanted to get everybody off. So yeah, so it's still here though.
But it survived it pretty well because of the strength of the boat. I mean,
Yes.
considering what happened to it, it's still.
Yeah, I remember one of the Coast Guard guys that were on their boat said that any other boat would have broken in two, because of the sheer forces that were at the time were affecting the boat. But she's planked with 1.5 inch planking, 2x3 ribbing, and a number of 6 to 8 inch frames that are throughout the boat. So it's very strong and stable vessel.
What kind of motor?
It's got a 1938 Detroit diesel in it.
38?
1938. It's 80 years old this year.
The Detroit diesel?
Yeah, 671 Detroit diesel. It's the same engines that were used in the landing crafts World War II.
Because that's where your father got it.
Yeah. Could be, yeah.
There's probably a story behind that.
There's
you know he didn't buy a brand new motor.
No, this engine was actually, this is the second engine we put in it. The first engine was my grandfather had purchased for him when he was building the boat. That was his gift to him, was getting the engine. And that came out of a marine store, rebuilt, of course. But I forget what year that was made. But yeah, he installed that. And we ran that from 65 to 1980. In 1980, we found a boat down the river that was a derelict, and they were going to cut it up. And they offered us the engine for it out of Savin Hill Yacht Club. And we went down there, we cut the boat up, we got rid of it, and we took the engine. My brother Jim went through it, cleaned up, and we installed it in here. So this engine's been in this boat since 1980.
And it was a 38.
1938.
It still is a 38.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Very nice.
It starts it. It's very little maintenance, and it starts every time I go to start it. And it's been a beautiful engine.
How does it turn?
It turns on a dime. Yeah, it's not. There's very few boats that have single engines in them that are able to turn on its own length.
Why is that? Just because you can't have one engine going reverse and one going forward at the same time? Is that why?
Right, because he said if you had the luxury of having both engines, sure, you can put one reverse, one forward, and you can turn your boat around. This one here, because we have a 2 foot by 2 foot rudder on it.
Yeah.
And it sits several feet in from the stern.
Okay.
It's just the design that he had. This boat's able to turn it, and the boat will turn around on its own length.
Wow.
In circles.
Wow.
So it's pretty impressive. A lot of times I'll pull into certain marinas, and people will be looking, thinking that boat's too big to be in here, and then they watch you be able to turn around. They're pretty amazed at.
You like doing that, don't you? You
Very little bit. Every once in a while, yeah. A little bit.
Right?
Yeah. It's more or less. I like showing the boat off that my parents built it, and more so than the boat itself.
Are both your parents deceased now?
Yes, both passed away now. Yeah, but I think they'd be quite happy knowing that this boat is still going after 52 years.
And you're telling me that this boat is designed to be a fishing vessel?
Yes, it was designed as a tuna boat. Overhead here we have the A-frame tuna tower. That was used for spotting back in the days, and actually nowadays they still use towers, but not. I haven't seen very many with this type of tower on it. So the person would be up there. He'd be spotting for tuna, schools of tuna, and then up front here we have what's called a pulpit, and that's where the harpooning would take place. Is out front. And
how many tuna did your dad catch?
He caught a grand total of none.
None. So basically, this has been a recreational vessel.
It has been, yeah. It was actually, this was his design.
He just wanted to look like a fisherman.
He wanted to look like a fisherman. He didn't like to fish, so yeah. But he had the look. He had a serious look about fishing, But yeah, he was. He built this boat purely for the family, for traveling. This is our.
This is your
summer cottage. Yeah, this is the summer cottage. We would go to once a year to go down to anchor out the hook in Provincetown with a number of other boats that were here. They'd always travel in 3 or 4 families.
So
would
you
head
help
down.
each other out if
Right.
there's a challenge.
Yep. And so we'd. I remember being a kid, being very excited the night before. We'd all be tied to the dock here, waiting to go. And sometimes we'd leave, go to Scituate Harbor, stay overnight, and then go across in the morning. But we spent a week, 2 weeks down there, and not like nowadays where people call ahead and get a mooring in the harbor because they want to be inside the protected basin. Mm-hmm. We used to go out, we'd anchor off the hook there, and we'd stay out there for the week, We come in for ice every once in a while.
So
you
you
know,
had to
go
pay
to
for a
town.
mooring.
You have to pay for more, and we stayed out. That's where we were. We swim. We'd,
That's
the
where
beach
the working
and all that
men
stuff.
stayed.
That's it. Yeah.
The executives were in
yeah.
the shelter. Nice.
You know, so but it was always a treat going in there once in a while for to go walk around town. But we used to love being out there.
Any fear?
What's that?
Have you had any fear when you're out in the water?
A couple of times. We had we went through the Annisquam River one year, and came out, and we came out into like 6 to 8 foot seas, and we had green water up in the cabin roof, which green water is the ocean water. It's not spray. It's not whitewash. It's.
So you're dipping into the wave.
We're dipping into the wave where the very bow of the boat was going underwater and coming back up again. But the one unique thing about my father was that nothing ever fazed him. He was never afraid of anything or any situation.
Do you have a temper?
Not really.
Pretty even keeled. Eh?
No,
Even-
pretty even keeled. Yeah, yeah. Nothing seemed to bother him. He always could figure it out, have an answer for it, and he knew New England coastline like the back of his hand. And my mother used to always say that she'd trust going anywhere with him because he knew where to go, how to get there. And back then, there was no radar or not even radar, but we didn't have it. All we had
that was the other group.
Yeah, all we had was a compass. And,
That was the other yacht clubs. They
yeah,
had radar.
that's it. All we had was a compass and charts. And the unique thing with him was he used to travel at night all the time.
On the boat?
Yep.
Why,
So-
less traffic?
Because he could pick up all his beacons and buoys and stuff like that, much clearer at night. With
Okay,
with
so
certain
it's easier to see the paths.
right. So with a lot of these buoys on the chart, it will tell you how many times it will flash. Like a red flash, it flashes 3 times and pause, then 4 times. On the chart, it'll see 3 second, then 4 second. So you can scan the horizon. You can pick out where your next chart course is coming from. But that's how we did it. Wow. That's how we did it. Yeah.
Well, before we go, first of all, it's nice of you to let us share with the public when you put your total investment, your dad's total investment, part of your grandfather's investment on the line as we roll it across the pavement, Milton Yacht Club.
Yeah.
So, what's your biggest concern when you're removing or putting the boat in the water using this antique winch system that's here?
Well, the biggest concern is somebody getting hurt. That's why we're always telling people just to slow down. And if you have to stop, don't take a chance on trying to move one of these rollers while we're actually rolling. If you have to stop and rejack the cradle, jack it up and reposition stuff, we'll do that. But that's the biggest concern. I don't have concerns with the boat because it's wood and something happens to it, we can always fix it. You know, so.
You have a good attitude.
But yeah, so
Must be like your dad.
I'm getting comments that are similar. I get the similar mindset as far as this stuff goes. You know, I just don't want people to get hurt and to be able to, you know, if something happens, something happens. Nothing you can do about it. No.
Well, we're going to be filming, so if something happens, we're going to have a better show.
Yeah.
But I hope nothing happens.
Right.
But we're going to find out, aren't we?
We're going to find out.
We're going to bring this sucker over onto that old rail car. We're going to pull it out of the water. We're going to put it on rollers, and we're going to put it to bed.
Right.
Put
Absolutely.
it to bed for the winter.
That's it. Start again in the spring.
Folks, we've been talking with Eric Forsyth, gentleman who kindly volunteered to let us film his boat going through the system of being removed from the waters here at Milton Landing, and we're looking forward to it. And thank you again.
No, you're welcome.
Welcome.
No, 50 years.
Very good. Thank you.
50 years I've known the boat. She's kind of famous. She's got a reputation around the harbor, and everybody knows it. Everybody's seen it. Oh, you mean the big green boat with the hoop mast? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Well, I was still in high school, and I get to know Harding Forsyth, the whole family. They were all boaters and yacht club people, and I would come down and work on their boats weekends. Hardy started building a boat out in the woods in Canton, and I used to travel out there and spend all weekend with him, and just being his gopher and picking up the trade and learning to build boats and cut wood and plane and mill and saw and scrape and drill and everything you can think of. To see it finally come together and the The huge truck trailer came in the yard one day to pick it up and haul it out of there and come down Route 138 and with the boat. It was really quite an operation. I rode on the bridge where we're sitting today, all the way from Canton to here. And we had the fellows out from the phone company moving all the wires because the boat was too high to get underneath the telephone wires. And it was a big crowd followed the boat down, of course. Traffic was tied up for miles. And it was a great afternoon. And then we had a launching party here at the Yacht Club when it finally went in. I think Hardy told me there were 68 people aboard this boat at one time. We counted them.
Well, my name's Nicole Forsyth, and I am Harding Forsyth's granddaughter. So I've spent my entire life on this boat. It's the only thing I have of my grandfather. I've never met him, so I feel like I'm connected with him when I'm on the boat. I poured my heart and my soul into this boat. I continue to work really hard on it, and I hope to keep it going for many years to come.
Then we get the boat onto the rail car, we jack the cradle up with the boat on it, and that's what these tubes are for. We'll put the tubes underneath the skids on the bottom of the cradle, and the rail car will winch the boat, and the boat will roll.
Every time there is a boat that needed to be launched or hauled, it's a collective work situation where, as a member, you're expected to come down here and help with other people when they need your assistance doing these operations, because when it's your time to be launched or hauled, you need somebody to help you. And it works out fairly well.
Tell me, where are we and what are we doing today?
Well, at the Milton Yacht Club landing, and we are hauling the Valhalla, which is a big job. You can see we have a big crew here. It usually takes about 10 guys, if not more, much as we can get. We feed them for their labor of love, take this boat out every year, and this is what we're doing here today.
So Andrew, when you came down here around the first time when you were scouting out the place and deciding if this is what you wanted to do, were you aware of the winch system for getting the boat in and out of the water? And when you did find out about it, what did you think of that? Were you a little concerned?
Well, I knew I had a lot of things to learn, but I knew there were capable folks here who could show me how to participate and to be safe in operating boats going in and out of the water.
It's an 11-foot tide, so you have about 6 or 7 feet of water there. So enough so I can drive this Valhalla over and drive it onto its cradle, and we'll haul it from there.
So you put a cradle onto the rail car.
Yep, and we chain it down so it doesn't float off.
Right.
And we attach a cable from the old winch system that we have, and we launch that whole apparatus goes down the rail into the water. And again, the cradle itself will be probably around 6 or 7 feet underwater, and I'll drive the boat over, and I'll work with the winch operator to creep the boat forward as he's pulling the car up out of the water, and the two will make contact, keep it straight, and that will allow us to haul it up the rail and out of the water.
Well, I have little points that I have on the boot line that show where the cradle arms go. So we're not playing a guessing game when we're hauling a boat of that tonnage.
Is that going the forward, Bill John? You see where the triangle is? I see it, yeah. Yeah. Can you point it out to me? Because the one on this side's gone. Should be where the stick is. All right. So it's back 4 feet from the forward, Bill John.
What just happened on that previous try was when the boat got on the cradle, the weight of it shifted the cradle, a block got loose, and the cradle shifted out of level, so it wasn't safe to haul the boat, and we knew that, so we hauled the cradle, and they're reattaching chains and blocks to make it more stable.
So when the boat gets further out of the water, we'll check to be sure that it's not too far forward on the car. We don't want the running gear, the propeller shaft, or the prop to be hung up on the cradle.
There's a lot of force on that cable, especially when the boat is coming up the railway and out of the water.
I mean, there are many, many opportunities for crushed fingers or toes, and so we're very careful so that no one gets hurt. And, you know, we have a pretty good record.
Coming up.
Like John Potter and myself and my brothers that will be here, we'll be on the lead on the front rollers. They're the ones that put them down and angle them for the direction we want to go. So we have probably 4 people working each side. We have the 2 leads for the rollers. We'll have a runner. We'll go back and get the rollers as they come up the stern.
And then you have to aim the rollers to go in the direction you want. And to do that, use sledgehammers and other kinds of heavy devices in order to make them point in the direction that you need them to go.
Back a little bit. Great.
All right, so right now what they've just done is they took a lot of cable out. We have what you call a dead man. If you focus at that railroad tie that's driven into the ground, and there are several of those all around the yard that are driven almost right down flush. And that gives us a place to attach to with the cable, and then to run the cable back to double block to reduce. It's almost like a gear reduction system. The more times you go through a pulley, reduces the load so you can pull heavy things. Now they'll come back and reattach up here and with 2 pulleys or shivs, however you want to call it, that will give us the pull. And then with the winch, when they're ready to pull, we turn the winch on, engage the winch, and start pulling the boat. We're kind of in a pirouette situation. We have to actually spin the boat to get by the light poles and everything. It's a little tricky getting around this corner and over the hill. And then it's just a straight shot down and into its berth. And there she'll stay for the winter.
Piece of cake.
With those cans. Hold it. Hold it.
So you get the big bar into it. That's
All the way in? All the way in? Yeah. No, you're good. Okay. Take it up there.
Coming up.
It's a nice place. Everybody's all good guys around here. A lot of these guys around here, all 2nd generation families. You know, their parents were here, grandparents were here, now they're here. A lot of these guys around here have been here since they were 2 and 3 years old and here with their parents.
And the idea that Milton Yacht Club is really a yacht club, it's kind of a misnomer in that it's It's kind of a working man's boaters cooperative. So there's a real spirit of community at Milton Yacht Club where there are skillful tradesmen who help each other out in maintaining and launching and hauling their boats.
This is one of the few actual working man's yacht clubs still in existence, really.
We kind of do it ourselves. We are do-it-yourselfers. There's no bar here and there aren't any services here.
This place is great. It's a working man's club. We do everything in-house, all the maintenance, all the repairs. We do all the boat hauling, the boat launching.
John, hit the stern downriver.
One might wonder, how do these people who are members of the Milton Yacht Club, how do they know how to do these things? We don't talk about what we do in kind of real life. We don't really necessarily fit into the category of, well, we have engineering expertise. So we kind of learn as we go. There are a variety of people who have an interest in carrying on traditions of Milton Yacht Club and changing as the future hands us whatever we have to adapt to.
Our primary mission is really to expand the use of the waterfront. We've done that through our paddle sports membership, through kayakers, through people using the boat ramp, and by encouraging responsible boating by anyone who wants to use the facilities down here.
How long have you been a member at Milton Yacht Club?
A year.
A year?
A year.
And what attracted you to it? What do you like about it?
I'll be honest with you, I just found out because my son, he's in a crew.
Okay.
Milton High School crew. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, And I talked to guys ahead, they were sitting, and they welcomed me very good. And I signed up and end up 3 weeks later, I bought the boat, a 21-footer, and there you go.
Be inside the yellow line.
Hey, where are we, Sean? Are we inside? Good. Yeah.
Good.
Good. Oh.
Wow, that's it.
Wow.
I would say I've been up and down the river thousands of times. So, yeah, I have a lot of memories of the river. I think the club and the operation is really vital to the area because, I don't know who would maintain the float and the landing down there if it wasn't for the club.
To utilize here after there's engineering changes to this ramp, we'll probably end up using hydraulic systems like many boat hauling operations are using. Most of them really are today. So, I mean, it's not as though we're not the last dinosaurs, but it's kind of getting that way.